6 Democratic hopefuls facing off in this week's final debate before the Iowa caucuses, and the lineup faced backlash for its so-called lack of diversity.
But our next guest says identity politics does not necessarily translate into votes. Here to explain, Executive Director of Unhyphenated America, Christopher Harris, joins us again. Christopher, good morning to you.
Hey, good morning, Stephen Dewey.
So what do you mean it does not necessarily translate into votes?
Well, you know, it seems that the Democratic electorate has rejected that which they so vigorously had supported just a handful of years ago, and even that which we've been told is the most important thing, that you have diversity up on stage. And you know, when I look at that picture, I'm thinking that what we're looking at is basically a whiteout. Right? I mean, is that we're dealing with a total lack of diversity. And I think the Democratic Party should have a lot more American flags and other things to put some color up on stage to make up for what will be a glaring lack of diversity and lack of color up on stage. And listen, I say that in jest, well, half jest, because we're talking about a party that is constantly lecturing everyone on the importance of diversity and how big of a deal skin color makes. And it's just laughable to see the fact that, look at who they're putting up on stage. This is who they're giving their electorate. This is who there's going to represent them.
And you say that diversity doesn't have to be forced. What do you mean by that?
Well, you know, we tend to believe that America's best when it's unhyphenated, and that people tend to congregate based off of shared values, right? And so when you find out that if you believe and if you embrace the principles of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, then you realize that, hey, you know, we're all Americans, and the fact that you happen to be black or white or male or female or even gay or straight doesn't really matter, because we're bound together by those principles that we believe in. And, you know, look, I'd like to give the Democratic Party the benefit of the doubt that maybe they've moved beyond that, but there's no real proof behind that.
So how does it impact the Democratic candidate going forward in November of this year, Christopher?
Well, I think they're going to go ahead and try to push the same thing they've been pushing, which is they seem to be stuck in a loop. They're still going to go ahead and push the idea that orange man bad, right, and that he's a racist and all the things that they'll continue to push, even though you can look at a Trump rally and see the amazing diversity at a Trump rally and see that his support has risen quite a bit, and they try to play that down, the fact that his support among black voters is polled as high as up to 30%. And so, yeah, it's not really going to translate well for them. I just think that at the end of the day, you're talking about diversity all the time. You're hitting us over the head with diversity, diversity, diversity. But your electorate seems to have chosen a very undiverse group of candidates.
Right. I like that you said you focus on our shared values. We're all Americans. Thank you so much for being with us, Christopher.